Hey everybody, Kyle Garlett here. As promised, we have our prop bets for championship week. And yes, in case you couldn't tell from the things on the wall behind me, I'm a Chiefs fan. It is Friday. That means it is Red Friday for championship week. So I do have my red on and I'm ready to go. But this is about winning money. So we are not using our hearts for these picks. It's all about our brains and what we expect to see based on how these guys are performing at the moment and in big games like a game to go to the Super Bowl. So let's start off with the AFC Championship. I have picked one passing, one receiving, and one rushing prop for each of the two games on Sunday. And for the AFC Championship game, the passing prop, Patrick Mahomes, over 290.5 yards passing. The line with Mahomes and Joe Burrow is the same in this one. And I decided to go with Mahomes going over that total because he's just been the most sure thing there is in the postseason. Listen to these numbers. I've got them down here for you. He had 404 yards against the Steelers this year, 378 against Buffalo last week. That is impressive. Those are these two games from this last year. But even the previous year, 270 against the Bucs when he was running for his life. He had 325 against the Bills in the AFC Championship game last year, and 255 versus Cleveland. And he missed most of the second half with an injury. Then going back to previous year, 286 in the Super Bowl against San Francisco, 294 versus Tennessee in the AFC Championship game, and 321 versus Houston. And the year before that in the AFC Championship game, 295. So this guy does it. His championship game numbers, 295, 294, and 325. This line, 290.5, it is Patrick Mahomes' wheelhouse in the playoffs, 8-2. He has, and this is what's most impressive, at home in the playoffs, 7-1, 23 touchdowns to just one interception. This guy plays like nobody else when it comes to postseason play at Arrowhead Stadium. You're going to go over on Patrick Mahomes at 290.5 passing yards. All right, the receiving numbers. I'm taking T. Higgins over 67.5. Now, I'm not suggesting that you avoid Jamar Chase in this. If you want to take the over, go right ahead. I'm not suggesting you take the under on Jamar Chase either. I just see what happened here the last week with the Chiefs. They shut down Stephon Diggs. He had 7 yards on 3 catches, but that allowed Gabriel Davis to go for over 200 yards. I think what happened with the Chiefs in Week 17, obviously Jamar Chase went off 266 versus them. So they're going to be very focused on stopping Chase, and I think that allows T. Higgins much more space in the middle of the field to get yardage. And he's had really good games this year. I mean, he had 96 yards last week against Tennessee, 194 against the Ravens in Week 16. This is a guy who I 85 to 90 even. I mean, and he's had big games. He could get up to over 100. I think your best bet, your safest bet with your receiving prop bet for this game is T. Higgins over 67.5 yards. And on to the rushing. I'm scrolling down here. I got my notes. Joe Mixon. I'm taking the under on 56.5 rush yards. He's gone under in 3 straight games, under 55 in 3 straight games, and that includes Week 17 against the Chiefs. I think we're going to see a pass-heavy game for both teams. Mixon may have some decent yardage out of the backfield in the screen game, but I just don't see him having a big rushing game. This isn't going to be that kind of game. He was 3rd in the league in rushing this year, but he hasn't been doing that of late. Here in the playoffs, he hasn't done it at all. And I think your best bet there is to go under on Joe Mixon, 56.5 rush yards. All right, moving on to the NFC Championship game. Now, we were winners last week because we went under on Jimmy Garoppolo, and we're going to go under on Jimmy Garoppolo again this week. Right now, his numbers, the line is 235 or 234.5 pass yards. I think Jimmy G goes under that again for a couple of big reasons. He's all banged up. He's got that bad thumb. He's got a bad shoulder. And the 49ers simply know that putting the game on Jimmy G's shoulders as a passer is not how they're going to win. Also, you've got left tackle Trent Williams really banged up, and right now this Rams defensive line is playing as good as any line there is. I think Jimmy G goes under 234. He had 172 yards at Dallas, 131 at Green Bay. And yes, when the Rams and 49ers played in Week 18, Garoppolo did go for 316, but consider this. On that final possession in the last 127 of regulation, he got 83 pass yards, and then in overtime, he got 50 pass yards. So you take out those two final series of that game, and Garoppolo was at 183. 316 looked like he must have had a great game, but really it all came at the very end of the game and some big plays by Debo Samuel. So I think Jimmy G under 234.5 is your best bet for a passing prop from the NFC Championship game. Receiving prop. All right, now I was 3-1 last week on my props. The one I missed and the one I regret, Cooper Kupp, I said he's going to go under 100 yards. Finally, Cooper Kupp, who I've been riding all season long, I said, no, I think Kupp goes below, and well, Kupp went for 188. So I'm a fool there. I am not going to make that same mistake this week. Cooper Kupp right now, the line is 100.5. Again, he had 183 against Tampa Bay last week. Yeah, he only had 61 against Arizona in the first playoff game, but that was because the Rams blew him out. They shut things down. Stafford only had 202 yards, so the fact that Kupp had nearly more than 30% of that. So I think you got Kupp 100.5. The guy's gone over 500 or gone over 100 yards in 5 of his last 6 games. He had 118 against the 49ers in that Week 18 game. He's gone over 100 yards 11 times this season. He's one of the best bets there is. Don't make the mistake that I made last week by thinking he was going to go under. We're going back to over. Cooper Kupp over 100.5 yards receiving. And finally, our rush bet for the NFC Championship game, moving on down, it's Debo Samuel over 39.5 rush yards. He had 39 exactly against Green Bay, and that the weather just made both offenses just kind of stuck in the mud. He had 71 rushing yards against Dallas, and when he played the Rams in Week 18, he had 45 rush yards. You may be tempted at the total yards for Debo Samuel, which is 97.5. I'm going to stay away from that. That makes me a little cautious because that relies on him getting a decent amount of passing yards, and it's not that he can't do it. Obviously, he has done it plenty, and he did it against the Rams in Week 18. I just feel like that the passing game for the 49ers is pretty hit or miss right now. It's risky. There's a lot less risk in just taking Debo Samuel on his rush line total, which is 39.5. We are going over on Debo Samuel at 39.5, and those are your 6 prop bets. Let's just recap real quick. In the AFC, we're going to go Patrick Mahomes over 290.5. We're going T. Higgins over 67.5 yards receiving, and we're going Joe Mixon under 56.5. In the NFC Championship game, Jimmy Garoppolo under 234.5, Cooper Kupp over 100.5 yards receiving, and Debo Samuel over 39.5 rush yards. All right, those are your 6 picks for the weekend. Good luck, everybody.